Cosmos, let me say the first thing off. Thank you. Thank you solely because thank you. I sacrificed a lot, and I put a lot into that Dominic Mysterio video I just spoke on yesterday. So I want to thank y'all for that. New and Cosmos that have been here. Thank you, man or woman. Thank you, man, woman, child. I want to say thank you. Just thank you, because it's just I really think. Of course, I know that the hoops that I have to jump through, but thank you for making me jump through quicker. Is what I'm trying to say. And what I'm saying is, thank you for that. What y'all been doing for that video. That's really been pushing me up. So, thank you. And we got to get started off with that because, yeah, this is that time. This is that time to like I said, I'm not even with MGTOW or whatever you want to call it. Cuck, simp, or whatever. I'm not with MGTOW. I'm not with whatever it is too, like womanhood, or I'm not whatever label that's been displayed upon. I'm my own individual, my own entity, as such. I'm not pro anything. I'm as a human, as it used to be said. Yeah, I can say it like that. I'm a human because I'm a human. And that's how I'm going out saying. So, like I said, if this particular subject, makes you feel uncomfortable, you feel like, you feel like you're being attacked upon, then yeah, which is closer. The door right there is closer. So, there really is no going beyond that. So, because we got to get to that time. I say, even though I would very much not like to talk about it, I gotta be honest. I gotta be realistic, and reality more so. You can't even escape it now. Reality is in front of us, and it's gonna keep. And regardless if we try to ignore it, it's going to be a one step, if not 10 steps further. So I didn't say anything before because I thought it was just a smoke and mirror. I was like, okay, and this is just because how articles and of course social media now gotta go to Twitter first, and you gotta go to the internet to see if anybody else, if everyone is talking about it. So I saw some articles already, like this was like before WrestleMania season. I saw a couple of articles talking about if Charlotte and Rhea was going to be the main event, night one main event of WrestleMania. And I was like, okay, no, that's I was like, that's false. And I saw wait, so I just wound up waiting. Then it comes out, it's a lot of rumors now. I'm pretty sure like I saw a couple of people from my side is talking about it, and it's being speculated that Charlotte, Flair, and Rhea Ripley might main event. Sorry, sorry about that drowsiness, but it's being speculated, it's being talked about, rumors that most likely Charlotte and Rhea might main event WrestleMania night one. And okay, like let me just come at it, because let me start from here. Because like I said, at a time period where obviously, like, after CM Punk, when CM Punk, he ultimately, the first time left, and, so I kept, beyond that point, I was on and off. So, I didn't, and what I expected yet, so, of course, in the middle of 2010s, that's where even before then, but that's pretty much when you had politics growing as ever before. A year before too, for the whole Weinstein. It's 2017. That's when he got of course accused and ultimately convicted. That's when the whole Me Too era kicked off, and that's 3 years before the whole Speak Out movement. The Me Too side of wrestling, called the Speak Out movement, and I read about that too. And then that's when, pretty much that's when, a lot of, like I said, the so-called agenda, that's where everything started to worsen, and it was, a lot of politics being pumped in, and specifically, women, of course, the WWE being started, and that's when that, Stephanie came out and did that whole, that campaigning, that whole, women evolution, and going forward. Like I said, I've said, kind of said this too, but of course, like I said, I've been a big component of women wrestling. Like I said, it's whether it's been there to begin with, because of course you had, of course, the sexualization, and it's not like, of course, forced, because like I said, like women put them, like the individuals that contribute and put themselves in that position to be sexualized, like of course the Attitude Era, going to the Ruthless Aggression Era. Like I said, those early portions of like going back to those specific eras of wrestling, and specifically WWE. Like I said, it's not like and in this context, women, or not saying like the individuals, women individuals, it's not like they put themselves in that spot to begin with, like a Trish Stratus, a Lita, and so you can't say that they were forced to, because they contributed to that. And I said back in 2016, where this whole in WWE started to kick off, women basically, the campaign for sisterhood. And I said, I pray, like I said, if I didn't, I was kind of around, but I could see myself, pretty much exiting out, but because of that, because like like I said, when it comes to these things, like when it comes to a story, and when it comes to this, like the sole purpose of, because like I said, I'm a fan. Yes, I'm a fan. I've always been, or not even saying that, I'm an admirer. I've always, of course, been, I love action. I loved my Arnold Schwarzenegger, loved Sly, Stallone, Bruce Willis, many others, of course. I always grew up with those, of course, like whether it matters or not. But speaking in this context, I've always been a part of that, muscle pounding, gun toting, explosion, man with the girl getting the girl. I think, like, I've always loved that. But my biggest heroes, I say even my mother is my biggest hero. My mother is my biggest hero. She raised me, after all. My biggest heroes have always been women. I said, regardless if you want to believe that or not, of course, people, because it's not like you know me. My biggest heroes have always been women. Because like I said, because when I see this, of course, the whole identity, the whole gender war, gender politics, and you see to the point that is now. I mean, you could say like when it comes like WrestleMania 25, because people talk about how that was I didn't even know that, because like I said, I was on and off and was pretty much barely watching wrestling beyond that point. And that's a very, just like many others, and there's a huge indicator why. There's a huge indicator of why there is that. He's talking about WWE now is basically, of course, just like many other companies that were like WWE, talking about like Vince McMahon, a company that showed they were just raw. They had just there was the rawness of it all, and they were just, you know, of course, you know, whether it comes to the sexual appeal of women, and you know, women were shown in that way to be very provocative. So now you're talking about a company now, like 20, 30 years later, and now they're pushing, of course, they're pushing the whole agenda, and they're pushing that, you know, girl power, you know, women's like, you know, we're all about that sisterhood, baby. And, you know, evolution, as far as, you know, so as that, you know, evolution and women, because they share the spotlight just as the men. And like, yeah, like I said, I've been a big I like women's wrestling. You know, women's wrestling it's fun to me. Like I said, you know, it's because like I said, and I know I'm not the only one that just likes women's wrestling. A lot of others out there that likes women's wrestling. And like I said, you could probably not say not, because it was well off. I mean, that was when, you know, I think it was Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey, and Becky Lynch, the WrestleMania 25, and they main evented. I didn't even know that. They main evented WrestleMania. And like I said, you could say beyond that, it wasn't politics, or it wasn't because of, you know, what women and WWE have to like showcasing that because of where we were shifting to, and women had to be at the forefront because of gender politics. I mean, yeah, you're talking about the same year that Captain Marvel came out. I mean, very much, of course, an actress, you know, who was also, probably sure y'all don't know, but you're pretty sure like half of y'all know, but like Brie Larson, and you know what she's about. A woman that's like just like Jennifer Lawrence, a female I tried to say to everybody else that she was the first female action lead star, but like pretending as if there haven't been any women leads as far as that in any category in entertainment. And like I said, it's me, and I said that's completely ridiculous. And then, like I said, of course, because like I said, you had the same year where Captain Marvel came out, and then, like I said, going even further, because beyond that, because it's you know, we're on a lot of stages. Like I said, we're in, because when it comes to this, like I said, it's not also about being that, because you know, because of their identity, because of them having that sense. It's also a sense of entitlement. You already know, like, yeah, of course, when it comes to that word that is brought up, the sense of entitlement, because they need to. If it wasn't already to a point where it's especially, like I said, especially, like I said, when it comes to the double standard, if it wasn't already that, you know, they weren't, well, as far as WWE, because like I said, I've always been, whether it doesn't have to be as forced. You can do it in a way that feels as if that you can get people to, oh, okay, this doesn't need to be forced upon. So, you know, it's given, you know, it's given legs. You're giving us as far as a reason to stand on it, and it's not just because of, you know, the clear indicator of because of their women. You know that's not the forefront. You know, you're not forcing that upon us. You know, it's because of the story, the characters around them. You know, yeah, it's like that's what gets them interested. And it's like beyond that point, because we was already starting to sink in, and now, you know, we're at a point now where, of course, you know, just like any other politics, you know, like women have to be at the forefront. You know, they have to have their separate everything. They have to face men. Like I said, it's just it's to a point. Like I said, it's like you can't. It's to a point where it's just it just does not make any sense. And like I said, we just got almost. I think it's probably like it's already because time goes fast, but it's probably already a month now, and we've just been removed like weeks ago. Like I said, you have like you said, you give them everything. You give them like I say, you give them what they perceive that they weren't getting in the first place, and then they just beg and demand more. Like I said, it just breeds to like a child. Like once you continuously give them what they, what they force of you and what they, beg to cry for, then they know that they know that they can get whatever it is to be needed from you because they have, they figured out a way to make you cower down before that. And like I said, we just got done with, Brie Bella, the Bella twins. And they pretending as if like WWE has given them everything to begin with. Just like a Paige, like going out of her way to just slander and just to bring up stuff when WWE put her on a single platter, handed her everything to begin with. And it's just like, it's like seriously, like, is that not enough? Like I said, even speaking for, because like I said, like the title, like I said, all of this does nothing because they see what they can get away with, and they abuse it, and that's what's going on with now. Like I said, we're years, probably like 4 years, or we're just like upon that, because we're the main event. It's the first ever main event at WrestleMania 35, and we're years removed beyond that. And like I said, I'm a big proponent. I've always loved women's wrestling, but if you spin this narrative, if you push these because of politics, because of sponsors, and because it will get that, because it gets women points, it's like then you're gonna push people away, and people don't want to be forced to watch something. They don't want to learn something they don't want to learn. And of course, we get to WrestleMania 37, and Bianca Belair, and I already talked about it before, where I talked about Bianca and Asuka. If y'all watched that too, like, that story was completely and utterly, tedious. It was laughable. Like people thought that was a joke. It was like the build for that was just. Like I said, it made you look at yourself or whoever you talk to or conversate with, and like, are they serious? And this is the main event, and then you have that whole, like I said, like Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. And it's like, I love that moment when it was Bianca and Sasha. Between that moments, Bianca and Sasha, I love that moment when they were, both crying and the crowd was into it. You love that, but you knew the context behind that. And it's like, of course, as they were getting ready into it, and then Michael Cole put the emphasis on it. The first two black women to main event WrestleMania. I was like, I didn't think about it before, because like I said, I was just, I don't know, because I was watching the match, but I heard those words. Yeah, I do remember hearing those words, and I was just immediately, I just immediately fell into the palm of my hands, and I just, did he really just say that? Because you already know how, because like I said, because you already know how the people, how those two sides are gonna look at this. And they're gonna, that you have that side of the masculinity that's going to, or whatever, red pill or whatever, and they look at that and they think, they're already gonna immediately tell what this is, whether it's diversity or a gender war, and they're gonna put that stamp on it because you just put that stamp on it. And it didn't even. I'm sorry to say whichever, but it didn't deserve the main event because the build around it was just, it was incredibly just downright awful. And it just, and like I said, it'll pretty much be remembered for the stigma of, because two black women main evented, basically main evented WrestleMania. And because like I said, that was still, because like I said, it was in 2021, yeah. And because like 2 years, we're already beyond the point of where, because like I said, it's just people feel as if they can now. It's just now where it's just they even, like I said, because companies they know that now, and they can push, they can have those politics where it can be pushed to an extent to where they can use that beyond their benefit, because they know they can profit off this. In this case, WWE, and they can get those points. And like in the process, you just like sacrifice, and that's not, like I said, you're not gonna get people. You're gonna force people to just, dwell away because of that, because it's just they already know what they're getting into. So it's just we're at a period, and it's just we're at a time more so now where it's just everything is just consumed. It's everything branded with politics, and it's just that you can't get away from it. It's unescapable. And like I said, my biggest heroes have always been, like I said, of course. I'm a man. I love masculinity, but growing up, because like I said, I'm an admirer of characters and stories. And funny enough, involving those characters in stories have been women. My biggest heroes have always been women. Whether, because like I said, I know you don't know, because, people don't, of course, people not going to be familiar with, but, my biggest heroes have always been women, and those women, whether it's Sidney Prescott, the Scream franchise, horror, and like I said, but they probably don't really know about that. But horror is like, cause that's like I said, that I don't know if I said before, but that's pretty much female empowerment right there, because you have female characters, and they're in the struggle. And beyond beginning to the middle and the end, they're fighting for their lives, and because like I said, that's basically female empowerment right there if you look at it. And I don't even think that's really, if people really take that into context, basically. And like I said, it's just regardless, man or woman or not. Like I said, it shouldn't matter, but it's just, this is what society has succumbed to. And it's just, we're at a point now where it's just politics are going to drive, and they're going to control whichever lane that we're going to head to next. And it's just, it really is a shame. Because now it's just like you sacrifice what worked before, and you sacrifice everything you stood for, and then sacrifice people. Because like I said, people are not going to be down. People are not. They're going to be forced to be drove away because of the fact that you're doing this because of politics, and. I said that's the hill you want to go up, and the sacrifice you want to make, then it's going to cost you. So I'm going to see y'all later, though. Hope y'all enjoy your day, and I'm going to head out of here. Stay blessed, y'all.